Hello, everyone. Blessings and manifestations. Hello and welcome to New Haven Pride Center's youth program, Generation Z on Queerness. My name is Ala Ashumare. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the youth program officer. The center's youth programming is made possible with support from the Avangrid Foundation, and today's panel is additionally sponsored by CT Humanities. Before we dive in, I really want to ground us, and in an Atlantic acknowledgement. We'd really like to acknowledge the land we are hosting this program on. The New Haven Pride Center was founded and operates on the traditional lands of Mohegan, Mashantucket Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Skakat, Kanoke. Someone please make sure y'all correct my pronunciation on that because I know that's not right. As well as Golden Hill, Passaquat, Niantic, and the Quinnipiac people. Excuse me. We hope that from wherever you are, you take a moment to acknowledge and honor the Native Indigenous folks whose lands you are on and the history of the place that you are in. Find out more about where your native land is in particular at the website native-land.ca. And so I would love to introduce our first panelist. Let's bring on Ames.
Hello.
Hey, Amy, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks so much for taking out your Friday evening with us. Would you love to introduce yourself with your pronouns? Tell our community just a little bit about yourself.
My pronouns are she, her, and most people call me Ames. My full name is Amy Cordova. A little bit about myself is I love to sing and dance and try to enjoy myself as much as I can.
Thank you. And we would love to bring on our next panelist, Kiara.
Hi, I'm Carol Lozada. I use she, her pronouns, and a little bit about myself. I'm really into music. It's been a part of me my entire life, and the arts really helped me enjoy life.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I am going to pick your brains about dancing and music in just a second because I'm really interested in you folks. I wanted to ground us and let folks know why we're here, why Generation Z, why this panel, why do we want to know about how you folks create holistic, safe communities for yourself. And when we were discussing and creating this panel, more oftentimes than not, we think about what things are being what things are being created for youth and center the youth voices. And so at the beginning of the series of panels, the staff at New Haven Pride Center, along with myself, we recognize that young folks are the experts in everything, right? And so why talk over y'all folks? We want y'all are the experts. You know exactly what you need and what you want. And instead of old people like me telling you what you need, we want to create really holistic and safe spaces for y'all to do that. And so thinking about like the brainstorming and solution building processes of like things in the world, very rarely have y'all probably been asked, like, what do you want? What do you need when it comes to what do you think about education? What books do you want to read? What kind of math is important to you? And so y'all are often left out, and then y'all have to deal with like the brunt of whatever us old people go in a room and decide. Y'all deal with all of it, and we kind of get to bow out ungracefully after that. And so the amazing thing that I have figured out. I have a 16-year-old son, so I live with the Generation Z, a member of Generation Z all the time, and he teaches me so much, and so I work really hard not to silence him and not to do the things that I remember as a millennial, all the old folks doing to me, and sometimes they still try to do. So that leads me into um, my first question, and it's the same question for both of you folks. So whoever wants to go first, please go. And y'all shared a little bit about it, but as young folks who are often silenced and have to create the safety nets that really, really are that we need, especially as queer folks and queer folks of color. And y'all share music and dance and stuff, but what are the things that you can directly connect, like you choosing to do because it was your choice?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question again?
Sure. I was like, do you want me to repeat it? So what are the things, be it books or activities or jobs, what have y'all been doing? What choices have you made or things that you have made that you decided to do? So for you, Amy, did you decide to do dance? And if so, what kind and why? How did you get there? And for you, Kiara, did you decide to do music? And yes or no, and it's okay whatever the answer is, but like, why do you still do it? Why do you still make music now?
I can actually answer. For me, at least, growing up, already reading my biography and such. Even though I grew up raised, I as soon as I hit the fourth grade, I was told by my mom, "Okay, what instrument do you want to play?" I'm like, "Well, I want to play the drums," and she was like, "No, no, that's not a real instrument. You need to learn like a real instrument." I'm like, "All right, the trumpet." It's like, "No, that's a boy's instrument. Why not the clarinet?" And I'm like, "All right." Playing music and like being in church and being like part of that musical like community as well. It was half not my choice and half was. I only chose to stay in it because I loved it so much and like I learned to love it. Something that I ended up loving but still wasn't my choice was cooking. I really like to cook, but then again, with siblings, you kind of need to learn how to cook, especially as the girl. You need to learn how to cook. But it's just a passion. It's just something it grows on you, and I guess that's one thing. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Ames?
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, I understand. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong. Kiara. Yes. Okay. I understand what she was saying about having to cook for my siblings. I just made dinner, so it's very understandable. Um, Personally, I make decisions for myself that best interest my family because at some point that's like my biggest limitation, and it always has been. How is this going to affect not just me but other people?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And speaking of other people, I'm curious as to how do you in what ways and like how did you create um a queer community around yourself?
Okay, so this is actually a really good question. So at my school, my high school, we have started a club, a spectrum club.
Mhm.
Um, and I have like gotten in touch with several teachers, and we are celebrating, and we are providing a safe space in which isn't usually the kind of thing you really see in our school. Our school, most of the time, you hear kind of the ignorant statements of, "Oh, that's so gay," or stuff like that, and it's really upsetting. And this is the first like year we've had this, and it's really amazing.
Thank you for that. I'm so glad you have that now. Kiara?
Actually, the same for my school. We have a pride club. I'm one of the officers, actually. During this week, we've been trying to actually figure out how we're going to do meetings. And because of the holidays, for gay youth especially, it's really hard because, you kind of have to dumb yourself down. You can't really express that much because about the family. And it's really nice to have that community around you. So that's what we have. For me, the word is not born into it, but I was definitely surrounded by it. My siblings being LGBT and really, really emphasized to me that we don't use phrases like "that's gay" or we don't use like "we're not homophobic." We don't do that, and how they really normalized it for me. And I think that because of them, they helped me understand myself and helped me be comfortable with expressing myself.
Ashe, that is so awesome. That is so awesome. And thank you for going, making sure you create that same kind of community for folks in your school who may not have that so close to them. So that's like really amazing. Um, and one thing I found, and one thing I try not to do as a parent of someone who was in Generation Z is silence or tokenize you folks and like say, hey, we need young folks at the table, but never listen to anything that you say, right? And so how do you keep pushing on even when you have been silenced due to being younger, because y'all folks are pretty young still? And what do you do? How do you keep yourself sane, rather, when you're actively being silenced and folks are practicing ageism on you?
I think I really try to. I do. I get silenced almost all the time just because I'm 16, and it's like, oh, you're young, you don't know anything about the real world. But I think that that's a really big issue. But what I do in my case is I try to write it down, and I put it aside for the moment. But then I'll bring it up when people have cooled down. But sometimes it persists. Um, and that the form that you were talking about, kind of the silencing, mostly doesn't just come from the community. It comes from your own family, and that's what really hurts the most.
Kiara, would you like to answer? Do you want me to re-ask it?
No, that's okay. Kind of to piggyback off of that because I feel the exact same way. As 17, tomorrow's my birthday. Actually, I'm gonna be turning 17, but as my oldest sibling is 30, and so obviously them being like, you have no idea what we've went through in order for you to be the way that you are. And I'm like, hearing that from your own community, it's like, well, you're kind of right that like, I haven't been like at those stages where being like not being safe was really hard. But then again, it's, how do I say it? It's like, I don't know, it's more like, so like you kind of have to tell yourself like everybody's experiences are valid, and you kind of have to relate to people that are of your same level, and you kind of just have to be like, I know what you went through, and you know what I went through, and nobody has to go through anything, and people shouldn't have to go through anything to understand that what we are going through, what all of us are going through, is at the same validity.
Thank you for that. And I will just say is it doesn't ever end. I'm 36 years old, and my mom tells me she calls me a little girl, and I'd be like, thanks. And also, I'm like old to a lot of people. So like, but just knowing that y'all have this analysis is like really amazing. It actually leads me into y'all are so dope at like saying the last thing that leads me into the next question without even knowing it. I appreciate y'all. And so speaking of being silenced and like folks telling you like, oh, in my day, like, so your 30-year-old sibling is a millennial like me, right? And like, so millennials have we have like this identity, like, we're like, we got to get everything, or we're like, either we want to just like go out and do adventures and, get careers. And y'all folks seem to be like way more with it and not as tied to systems like I have to go to college and get this career and that's gonna solve it. Whereas y'all folks looking at us know that doesn't mean anything. And so what do you tell yourself when all the folks around you are not understanding your decisions or your thought processes on something? How do you, especially as queer bodies, right? Like, what do you tell yourselves? And I ask this for young folks that are watching that maybe could use some like tips on what to do in like really ageist spaces. How do y'all stay so astute and not seem so squashed? What did y'all do?
That the question is a very difficult question to answer. But what I would say would be don't let like these confinements define who you are, because I continue to live in those boxes. So I don't express myself as who I truly am because I live in those boxes. And if one day I were to get out of them, I think I would feel so much relief. Like it's pretty unbelievable. But I would not suggest trying to change the world out of like a 1, 2, 3. If you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. That is perfect.
I'm gonna steal it right from the Trevor Project. It gets better. It gets better. In middle school, looking at my pictures from when I was 12 to now, the amount that I have changed and the amount of self-expression and confidence that you have in yourself, like you were saying, like being confined to those boxes, like once you, especially if you don't have the ability to express yourself the way you want to, because it's probably not safe. But if you do, be comfortable with yourself. Try and tell yourself you are worthy. You are good. You are human, just like everybody else. Because at the end of the day, that's what we are. And you have to keep on striving for that same level of everybody. Nobody's higher than you. Like we're literally all the same species. We just look a little different. Some of us may just look a little spicier than others, but hey, that's a lot of effort. So keep on going. It gets better.
And so while I was trying to like develop some questions for this panel, I was doing like research on like Generation Z and the difference between y'all folks and our generation, the millennials, the Generation Y. And a lot of what it said was that, y'all, so what does it say? It says y'all folks are used to technology, like that's just like a regular thing. to y'all. Whereas me, like, I remember when computers, like, you were a billionaire if you had a computer in your house, let alone like a computer. Like, we had AOL. Y'all probably don't even know what that is. But also that because of finances and like the lack of money and like the way like the world looks so crazy, um y'all have a better relationship with money than millennials. And so thinking about how queer folks are often sometimes the last folks to get paid, and also being that y'all folks we're BIPOC, all three of us are BIPOC folks and we're queer. Have y'all started to even think about money, careers, education? If so, why? If not, why? I'm just really curious as to your thought processes at 16 and 17 around finances and money, especially being queer people of color.
I think this is an amazing topic because there's this generational poverty that is passed down because of we're people of color, which is just obnoxious in every way. But what I have been thinking about is like setting a plan for myself. Um, like I've even told my parents this, trying to set like the income we get, how much we're going to spend on bills. I like to set a structure recently, um, which is definitely beneficial to people who are chaotic or like not chaotic but like to spend their money, um, which happens and is understandable. But for myself personally, I don't like to save either because I am. It's what in my school we like. Oh, you like to look rich, but you're not. So it's that kind of thing going on. But personally, I'm invested in my academics right now because I want to be a neurosurgeon. And people ask me a lot, why do you want to be a neurosurgeon? And it's always people usually assume it's because of Grey's Anatomy, but it's not, because I've met several doctors in the past. Um, I know a lot about the medical field, which is like surprising. I've had a lot of losses this year, including my grandfather and like uncles and stuff. So it's like hit me hard, but I'm not. I promised my grandfather I wasn't gonna let my dream go down the drain.
Thank you for that, and my condolences for the losses in your family. It's a really hard time right now for everyone.
Again, sorry for your loss and such. I actually understand completely, because same for me. I do have some relatives in other countries that have passed away, specifically due to COVID. But even my mom struggled with it for a while. And regarding money, it's for people of color, our families who grow up in middle class or like are like literally scraping any penny to just get their kid to be able to go on the bus to school, the city bus to school. It's either we either have a problem with spending all of our money or we don't spend it at all. I generally see that. For me, it's my parents have gotten a little better at it over the years, but it used to be like we cannot spend anything. We cannot spend anything. It needs to go to the bills, it needs to go to the food, it needs to go to clothes, and it needs to go to school. Those are our priorities. If you want to get a cookie, is that really going to help you in the future? No, I don't think so. So we're not going to get that. I feel like people of color that go through financial problems are kind of deprived of that. How do you say that? Like being able to relax around money. We can't really relax around it. It's really hard to. It's very nerve wracking. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a music teacher when I'm older. I plan on going to college, and that's already been an issue trying to find a job. It's really hard to find a job right now, and we need to find a job. People need to find jobs right now in order well, my generation needs to find a job right now so that we can try and pay off our loans. We can't rely on our parents. They already get a bunch of stuff, and it sucks to have them working at 70 because they want their kids to have a good opportunities and such. It's so much sacrifice, and it's really hard. But I feel like we really get through this by knowing we're strong, and that if this is what it takes, this is what's gonna.
Thank you for that. Oh my gosh. I wish that I paid as much attention when I was 16 and 17, because it like listening to your answers, right? Like it goes right along with the research that I've been doing between our like generations. Cause me, when I was 16, I was like, I can't wait to get a credit card. I'm gonna rack it up. And now I'm like 36 and I'm like, oh my gosh, credit scores and taxes. But that's just because, like, you know, I was born in 84, so I was growing up in the years of excess, and we had all the excess, and now y'all are watching us like be super poor and have a different relationship with poverty in a way. With technology, coupled with technology, it doesn't make sense how like we're struggling in our communities of color. So it makes me feel really excited, I think is a bad choice of words, but it's like it makes me feel excited that y'all are looking at things just a little bit differently than how myself and my friends looked at finances, because it set you up way better at outside of soon as you hit that 21 and up range. And that leaves me to my next question around education and being under-resourced, as well as over-policed. What I've noticed in the last like 4 to 5 years of education, like a trend, is that young folks are being less resourced when it comes to books and things like that, but more in the increasing of like uh trouble, like when you get in trouble, or increase of like y'all getting in different kinds of trouble. Like some of the stuff y'all do when I was doing it, we just got detentions. And now you folks for the same things are getting expelled. And so I'm curious as to your ideas and thoughts around under-resourced education, and as well as at the same time as being over-policed in that same under-resourced education.
That is an amazing question because I didn't think about it. I go to Hampton High School, and we're not necessarily over policed, but I can say during my sophomore and freshman year, the amount of stuff that went on was ridiculous. But but what would happen in response to like bad behavior? I don't know, kids not doing their work correctly, people not paying attention, really intense issues at school, bullying. We get in trouble instead. There are memes all around about it. Oh, my teacher like doesn't look at anything, bullying, harassment, sexual assault, nothing. Oh, your hoodie's on. Oh, you're chewing gum. Give me the phone. Take off your hood. We don't want any school shooters happening. And we're just like, you're not looking at the source of it. Like, people are getting bullied, people are being harassed in their own supposed to be safe environment. And you want to tell me to take out my gum, and you want to tell me to take up a hood, take out my headphones just to be so-called safer? You're obviously not looking at the right places. You are not. And you're not paying attention. And it's just goes to show like how much sometimes our higher ups don't care. And they really are focusing on other things, more so financially. And being under-financed in school, I was recently talking to my principal about it. The amount that she had to fight to just get every student a laptop, just a laptop. it's like, this is mandatory stuff and you guys don't want to give it out. Like, really? Like, how are these kids supposed to go on? There are seniors that are last class of 2020 that were struggling to get into college, to make sure that their SRT scores were in, that their college app was done correctly. And it's like, well, we don't want to. And it's the most pathetic excuse ever. Sir.
Yeah.
I think this is the one topic that I don't really can't connect to, because my school is a charter school, so we run off of donations, of course, but the school has done such a good job to try to supply students with as much as they can with the free education. So for Amistad High School, for the SAT and almost all the AP tests, the school pays for the test. Where I see where other high schools, public high schools, my bad, you'd have to pay for those tests yourselves, your parents, which is one of the things that I feel so reassured in my high school. In our high school, I know a whole lot of high schools that have security guards and where they check through your bag and all of this stuff. But in Amistad, that doesn't really happen because of the fact that we're such a connected school that it's not really necessary. Like, yes, there are security measures, but it's not to the point where people should feel unsafe. Not to say that it doesn't eliminate bullying, because I've seen it happen. I've been the firsthand accountant to one in elementary school in the same system. So this doesn't just reassure the 100% in the school, but it does take away that fear, that damage to kids. So that's one of the things that I feel really confident in our school. But I do also connect with the wearing hoodies. We have to wear uniforms. So if it's not tucked in, or if your pants are too baggy, it's you're not wearing it right. That's not professional. Do it that, or you get detention. It's this and that, and it keeps escalating. But my question is, why is uniform such a big issue when the issue should be our education? That should be our primary focus, not just our clothing, because our clothing may send a message, but that doesn't define who we are and what we're trying to tell and let people know, because a lot of our scholars in our school are very socially aware. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny because up until recently my son went to Amistad, so I definitely know about it's different than how other schools are, but now he's in Hill House, and so knowing that's really different. But I also worked in Hamden High until I was too anti-racist for them, and they was like, nah, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. And so I definitely saw firsthand the difference in response to things like uniform violations or dress code violations, as opposed to like bullying. Like they would follow someone with a hoodie down the hallway, and then but it would be a whole fight. Like these girls have. It was just crazy. It was crazy last year. I worked there for a while until like November, so I definitely saw the difference. And so something that came up is like the difference in like culture for both of you folks. Education, like the culture is a little bit different, but some of the same things are like some of the problems are the same, but then not so much always. And so we're gonna get into our closing. So this is our second to last question. What is it that you think that you would need for success for the next 10 years of your life?
that is a very, it's a very demanding question. But it was two or three things.
What do you think that you would need? And it could be one thing, it could be a list of things. It could be something very like or very tangible. I need $50 million to make it through the next 10 years, or I need, this for my community to make it through the next 10 years.
I was going to say financial stability because that is definitely a big thing if I'm going to be a neurosurgeon with all the school and the bills definitely going to be a huge thing, but also just support, like kind of being able to express myself, where I feel understood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, when she said support and stability, literally those were two things that came into my mind. Stability, whatever that could entail regarding educational stability, financial stability, emotional stability, anything like that. Stability. Everybody needs to be able to not think, am I not going to be okay? Like, you shouldn't have to question that. Like, it's a basic human need that every child should have, and they shouldn't have to think about it, especially at this age. Like, I know that we're about to be like adults and everything like that, but looking back, it kind of sucks that you have to think about that. And the other thing, regarding support, I think you can only really succeed in life when you are supported and you have a strong backing, and when you feel comfortable, because that's the best mindset you're ever going to be in. You're going to be really, you're just going to strive for so much, and that's really the only thing.
Cool. I always make more questions than I know that I'm going to get to. So now this is the second to last question. um. Oh, why is my phone unlocking? Sorry, y'all. Now I gotta. Okay, there we go. So right, we're all queer. Queer looks like so many different things, a beautiful spectrum, right? And the great thing that I realized around Generation Z is that y'all have an amazing analysis on who you are and your queerness. And so much so that like we don't have to like do the extra stuff, you get to just be. And so I would love to know, how did y'all get so strong in being able to be openly queer? Was it the folks around you? Was it books that you were reading? Um, what was it that allowed you to be whole and feel complete in your queerness enough to be able to be out at a young age? Can't unmute. Production manager, is it possible to unmute Amy? Oh. It's not a Pride Center panel unless we have one moment of a technical difficulty. I was wondering, I thought we were getting to the end. I was like, oh no. Yay!
I got it. I think I got it.
Yay! You're here.
Okay. So for myself personally, I've never felt, well, not yet, because I definitely expect to feel more um openly queer, because in my family, specifically my it's my I mean, I could say my family overall, because they're both, well, all of my family is very, I wouldn't say very homophobic, but they are really against it. They do see it as a sin. And so I got myself these beautiful pride shoes. They were Vans, and I really love them. It was white on top and it had a rainbow at the bottom, and it was so beautiful. And one day I come back from school. I'm so sorry if I start crying because it was like my favorite pair. But my mom, she tarnished the white part with a yellow. She did something to it. I don't exactly know. And I asked her, and she had told me it's for your own good. You're not a sinner, are you? And I think that's what really struck me, because I I didn't know how to react. She's always put me, like what I was saying before, into a box. She keeps me in the box, because if I were able to be like out of her grasp, I would no longer feel the need to like watch what I say. I can't tell her who I like or what I want to do or how I want to dress, for that matter, because she she has to change it. She feels that because she gave birth to me, she knows me. That she's observed me all these years. I've tried to keep her happy, like try to whenever I have an opinion or something, I stay quiet only for the matter of fact to please her. And then it's seen as wrong by other, like let's say my grandmother in this case. She sees it as wrong because I'm being disrespectful. So it's always that that kind of like barrier for me.
I cannot tell you how much Amy Ames. I cannot tell you how much I relate to that. I'm not going to assume, but I, from coming from a Latin household, that like I remember when I came out to my mom, and she was just like, I don't agree with it. Well, because of I'm the youngest out of seven, and first one was just like, I'm bi, and the next one, I'm trans. Next one, not really anything. I'm straight. Next one, bi. Next one, bi. Next one, straight. Then gay. And it's just like she's just like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And I'm like, Mom, you're not doing anything wrong. You're loving your kids. And she's like, well, what am I gonna do if you guys go to hell? And I'm like, well, and then speaking to her on a faith level and trying to meet eye to eye, it's I feel like their generation really thinks that like it's all about what happens on the afterlife. That it really doesn't matter what happens here. But then again, it does matter. So it's like we're like us questioning what really matters to them. um Latin households really grasp on to their kids. My parents are immigrants. They really latch on to us to make their lives better. They really think that we're gonna come back and make sure that everything's good for them. We're gonna get the money and then we're gonna take them right out of it. We're gonna bring everybody home. We're gonna make them happy. Now that is a wonderful thought, but that is so much to put on somebody. That is so much to put on, and it's definitely hard. But I think that for what she's saying is that it's hard. But what I can definitely say, the question. Can you repeat the question? Because I really forgot.
No, actually you're right on par with answering. And it's like, how do you own your queerness? How are you able to do it? How are you able to be who you are in spite of a lack of support or a bunch of support?
So trying to then those three things, trying to come eye to eye with somebody to make them see your part, and you have to understand that you're not going to make them. They have to want to. So they have to want to understand you. And I think my mom and dad have come a long way, because I would not be on this call if it was not for them. And being really open, support from my siblings and from my friends, that is definitely something. And to keep your head up. You have to keep your head up. Again, you are the only person that is holding you back. You are the only person. I don't care you're getting bullied. I don't care if your family is doing all this stuff. You are the only one that is going to hold yourself back. And yes, maybe you have to wait because that is the safest option. Maybe you have to wait until you are 30 and you're out of the house. Maybe, or to transition. If that's the case, then you just got to keep on waiting. Oh, the day when I can cut my hair, when I can get my tattoos, I can get my piercings, and I can dress the way I want. Keep that mindset that, again, it gets better.
I will definitely say I come from a Black family, and my parents just accepted me. Right. Like my dad, who used to be, it's so funny because my dad used to be really problematic and like super anti-gay. And like my mom, she would say like really problematic stuff. But then there was like some flip in the last like 2 years. And like my dad, like he now asks questions. I think because he has seen like the big blowouts between my mother and I, and like I wouldn't go around. And like, you know, at some point, parents have to be like, I miss my kid, you know what I mean? So like, let me just do what I gotta do so my kid could come around again and feel safe enough to come around. And like my dad asks questions now. Like we had a whole trans conversation, and he was just like, well, what do I say? And it was just totally different than how 10 years ago when I first came out to my parents. My friends knew I was queer in high school, but I always knew that it was like not gonna be accepted. And Amy, like I said, my mom does this like, it's something about Black and Latinx families, like the culture, we're so tight, like we depend on our children so much to like exit us out of whatever thing that we like don't allow our children oftentimes to like be their own people. And it's like, Kiara, like, you know, hearing your mom say like, what did I do wrong? Like I would have been like, Ma, you did everything right. You created a space for your queer kids to come out and tell you that they're queer. Like you may not think that that's good, but like somewhere in there, even with all this Bible stuff, like we still felt free enough and liberated enough to do that. Knowing that it still may not be the best accepted. And that leads me into our last question, and I call it the COVID question, right? Like, how are y'all dealing with COVID? How are y'all staying safe and sane? And are there any things that you're tapping into that you would like to share with our audience?
The first couple of months of COVID, it was really hard for me. I hated being in my house. Um, I was always in my room. I hated it. I really did. I was so used to like taking the school bus, going to school, and then coming home around 4 or 5, because the bus would come home at that hour. But being home locked in, and especially with my stepdad being home, like he was they kind of took away his hours, so he was home all the time. Just having to like experience that was like really making me crazy. So when the first time I got out of the house, I felt it was like incredible. Have you ever? It was like a movie, and it was really funny. But I felt like I could finally be free. Like I'm not. I always tell my mom I feel like I'm in a cage in this house, just
Mhm.
like just in a cage. Like I hate it. But now I'm keeping my sanity. I'm on the phone with my friends all the time. They are the most amazing people I have ever met. They drive me crazy, but they're truly, truly nice. Um, and I try to go out at least like once a month with my mom, even if I'm going grocery shopping or if it's something like that. Like I just try to get out as much as I can.
Thank you, Ames. Kiara.
Uh, like I told you guys before, my mom works at Yale New Haven Hospital in the pediatric unit. So during the big spike in Connecticut when COVID hit real hard, my mom was working, and she came home, and then about like 3 days later, it just like hit her right in the chest. That's what she's exactly her words. It hit her right in the chest, and she was just like real pale and everything. So that was really hard, and not being, especially us people wanting to be so strong and we don't want people to do anything for us, but So it's really hard having, my mom was just like, I can get my own soup. This woman can barely walk at this point. She needs to stay in bed. And we're just like, Mom, I'll get you the soup. And she's like, no, you're going to get the COVID. And we're just like, that's okay. We need to help you. It was hard at first. And losing friends as well because of lack of socialization. It's also, I lost a lot of friends due to that, but that's also low-key my fault because I'm a little antisocial. But trying to maintain relationships, but then again, regaining some and reaching out, just being able to just be like, hey, doing a homie checkup. How are you? You don't know how many times that I've gotten one, and I was like, man, I really just need somebody to ask me how I was doing. And it just spiked on from there, meeting my partner. And that was really nice. I think a lot of people during the pandemic really found somebody and was just like, oh, you're the one, or just made friends and just gained groups where at least their friend groups ended up really getting those toxic people out and just getting even stronger. And my music, practicing, because that's the only thing that's going to get you better. Concentrating like that. Like you were saying, Amy, when getting out of the house for the first time, felt like Rapunzel. Being locked away in a tower and finally getting out. It's like, wow, the new world. And it's like, no, the new world's pretty sad, not going to lie. But hey, at least I get to get some Cheetos, But yeah, just socialization and
I wanted to add in a little bit into the kind of parents kind of working during COVID. My mom, we may not be the richest family. I don't know if I'm frozen. No. Okay, you're staying very still. So my mom, she works at McDonald's. So she's kind of the store manager. So it's very difficult. She's in charge of everything. And it's always been very hard on her. And growing up, I've always seen her less and less. I never saw her as my mother growing up. It was like I've never had a mother growing up. It was always a cousin or family member. And so recently, before she had taken this job, before COVID, I was able to see her more often and everything. And it felt kind of like a certain relief for me because I was able to kind of build a connection with my mother, which is something that I wouldn't say I have the strongest connection, but I have one. And she's always had a really terrible connection with her mother growing up in Peru. But now it's gotten better, but due to COVID, it's kind of ruined that bond that I've had with her because she comes home working 14 hours a day because she has to maintain everyone at her job. So it's very difficult for me and her, and as well as my siblings, because my siblings, I'm pretty sure they're tired of seeing me every day. Like I'm sure they're sick of it.
Yeah, COVID definitely has created a whole new world. I got out my first real outing after I was doing the spin in the imaginary field of flowers, it's a whole new world. And then you were right, Kiara. I was like, oh wait, it's the same world. It's stupid. And so that brings us to the end of our panel today. And thank you so much, Ames and Kiara, for joining us. I hope that you stay tuned in and tapped in to the youth programming. We have this amazing stretch of youth programming that we have. We got Pride. Well, we just had Pride every day. But we have safe spaces on Thursday. We have at least 2 panels a month. Look at newhavenpridecenter.org for more info. And again, for our audience, thank you so much for joining us. You can keep up to date on all of our youth activities and programming by following us on our youth Instagram at NHP Oh, wait, we changed it. NHPC Youth. Again, follow us on IG at NHPC Youth. And you can also visit us online at newhavenpridecenter.org/youth and get straight to our youth programming. Caregivers, if you are on Facebook, caregivers and parents who are tuning in, if you are on Facebook, look us up, New Haven Pride Center on Facebook. For young folks, make sure you like our Twitch page, like our YouTube page, like our IG page and Twitter page, New Haven Pride Center Youth. And you can always email me at youth@newhavenpridecenter.org. Thank you so much. Again, Kiara and Ames, it was so amazing to have y'all on. Thank you. And before we go, I would love to bring on Patrick Dunn, our ED, who has some amazing updates. Yay!
Hey, Ala. Thank you so much for putting this together. And again, thank you to our incredible youth who always are so impressive and do so many really cool perspectives to what is going on in the next generation and how they're gonna lead the way, you know, when you and I are in wheelchairs. So I just wanted to again thank the community and for being here with us today. As Allah mentioned, this program is sponsored by Avangrid Foundation and CT Humanities. However, we are really proud to be supporters of our youth, and we pay our youth for their time and for lending us their voice. Right now, we have a special fundraising campaign going on through December 31st. We got a special national grant of $25,000, which we are trying to match. So if you are feeling generous, if you were inspired by today's talk, you can go to newhavenpridecenter.org/donate. Donation of any amount will be matched 1-to-1. So if you give us $1, that is now $2. And you can also give a donation if web doesn't work for you on Venmo at New Haven Pride Center or on Cash App, which is $ New Haven Pride Center. Again, every donation that we receive between now and December 31st is going to directly support what we're doing on it with a 1-to-1 match, and we'll be helping lay a great base of work for next year's programming, which we are looking forward to expanding beyond the walls of the city of New Haven. So again, Allah, thank you so much for being here tonight and being part, putting this program together. You always put together such incredible youth programs. And we will see you all tomorrow for another youth talk.
Yes, tomorrow at 1, right?
Yeah, at 1 o'clock. Young folks in politics.
Yeah.
And if you are feeling political and looking for some women's programming tonight, we are hosting a fabulous program in about an hour with Arts and Ideas on Queer Out the Vote for Women. And that will be taking place also on all the platforms you're watching us now. So any last words, Allah?
Don't forget to donate.
Well, thank you, everybody, again. I'm going to go ahead and end our broadcast. Have a great night.
Love you.